You're listening to From Field to Future on the Praying and Slaying Podcast Network.
Guys, welcome to the first episode of the From Field to Future podcast. I'm here with a good acquaintance and friend of mine, Cain Rinehart, and we're going to talk a little bit about archery this evening. But first, I'll introduce and tell you guys and tell Kane kind of my ideas behind this podcast. So I'm lucky enough to have grown up in Montana, born and raised here, and I started hunting with my dad at a very young age. Basically, he had me out in the field when I was in diapers. And I think it's great in the industry today that we have a bunch of people that are teaching people how to hunt and Western big game hunt. But I feel like we really need to work on passing this along to the next generation and passing this along to our kids. And I know Kane is a father and has kid, one or two kids, Kane?
Just one, turning two.
Just one.
Turning two next Thursday. So.
Turning two next Thursday. So, yeah. Yep. And so I've got two boys, 5 and 7, and really, so it's twofold. It's one to take and encourage guys to get out and do the hard stuff and take their kids hunting. But the other thing is to learn from guys and get a bunch of ideas so I can have it easier to turn my sons into passionate hunters and have this love and enjoyment that I have. So Kane works at a local lumberyard. I happen to get to talk to him in the mornings and have coffee and buy materials from him and stuff like that for our day jobs. And Kane has Rinehart Archery. So Kane, why don't you tell us about your archery business a little bit?
Years ago, my wife and I started working on our own bows at home, just to save the time. We live in Livingston, so, we don't really have a local bow shop over here. And her and I were we were just really big on our equipment and fighting for tighter tolerances in our stuff. So we slowly started to buy equipment. We were doing a lot of our own stuff. And then, did that for a while. And then after a number of years, started to have buddies that were coming over, wanted to do one-on-one tuning. And this is when I was just learning a lot too, taking in other bows and working on other brands of bows. And it just kept kind of branching out. So then we ended up being able to buy our dream home back in 2021. And down here in our finished basement, we just have this awesome space. And this is where our new bow shop went when we got in here. And we had so much space and we were starting to do so much for other people. And we finally, it wasn't until January of last year that we finally branched this into an LLC, which has kind of had a lot of cool benefits to come with it. I got partnered up with Lancaster Archery, so I'm a dealer for them. So that's been incredible. And basically, man, everything we do here is really personalized. It's just all one-on-one bow work, tuning, restringing, very personalized custom arrow builds. That's something I'm super busy with now during the winter, which I like because, even though we haven't barely had a winter, it's nice being cooped up building arrows. But and there are people that send me their bows too that I just tune for them, and usually it still works out really well. But anybody that can get in here for a personalized tuning session shooting their bow, we've had, the feedback so far, Jeremy's been incredible, which I'm really happy about. I just, for example, a customer of mine at work, he's quite a bit older than me and just kind of was out of touch with his bow. He thought he was a bad archer. I took his bow in and it had a terrible tune, nothing had really been paid attention to on it, and made him some custom arrows and got it set up, and he got home and he was like, I don't get it. I'm just shooting better than I ever have. It's like, yeah, you weren't a bad archer, man. You were just shooting a weapon that just wasn't worked on right, and we're not, and nothing about this is to say that archery shops aren't doing that. Archery shops, man, don't have the time to do what we do here. They're there to sell. They got to sell product. That's how they make money,
Yep.
They do tune bows, but a lot of them have implemented this new rule. You're not the one tuning it anymore in terms of shooting it. They just kind of hand it to you, and you got to take their word for it. But here, nobody leaves until they see what their shot through paper is like, and they're feeling confident about it. So we're just kind of part two of the normal retail bow shops, and we do sell a lot of product, being a Lancaster dealer as well. But that's what I like to refer to it as, is like kind of part two of after you get a bow, if that makes sense.
Yep, perfect. So before I forget, how can guys find you or get in touch with you if they're interested in having you work on their bow or that more personalized tuning or shooting to really take their archery to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Instagram is definitely the best way. If you just go to Cain Rinehart on there, I also have the Rinehart Archery page, so I manage those two pages. That's how mainly people reach out to me. But I'm also not afraid to put my number out there. And for those listening, it's 406-600-3172. People are welcome to text me, call me, whatever. But yeah, the social media platforms are definitely the easiest way, I would say. And it's a good way. We started the Rinehart Archery page. It's not really flooded with too much yet. We've been doing some just like cool videos here at this desk here and just, some tips and tricks on different things. So yeah, that's definitely the best way for people to find me is Cain Rinehart or Rinehart Archery on Instagram.
Perfect. Perfect. So quick question. I am I have gone way down the rabbit hole with long range shooting and stuff like that and reloading, and I've always just kind of been an archer to extend my season until 3-ish years ago, and then I've got just obsessed with taking my hunting to the next level and bow hunting. And then I decided to build a house, so now I'm kind of recuperating. But building arrows, I've built my own arrows, I've fletched them. I feel like I do an okay job. I've messed around with 3-fletch and 4-fletch, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But I have gone with 4 millimeter arrows. And is there a good way to 4-fletch a 4 millimeter arrow shaft, or am I just because I'm beating my head against the desk
Sure.
when I'm trying to do it, and I'm not getting good glue contact and all that stuff. And
Yes. Yeah. So
so
that's where the 4 millimeter trick, the 4 millimeter definitely presents a bit of a trick with a lot less surface area to glue to. It's all about your jig and how you set it up. I don't know if you've noticed the new October Mountain product jig. I've used every jig you can think of. I did switch over to this one and I bought 2 of them so
okay,
I can work on arrows faster. So this is a new jig, and without people being able to see what we're talking about, this is a new jig that is super good at micro tuning before you start to glue down. You can dry fit a bunch of times and look at it really closely. Other jigs, man, there's no it's hard with repeatability. This new one has tick marks everywhere. So every time you move something, you're following marks. So
okay,
the other cool thing about that is when you go to fletch arrows that you've been working on before, but you set your jig up differently in between, because I do that all the time. Like I'll build my arrows, build other people's, then I got to go back and build some for myself. There's tick marks and numbers on your offset and all your left and right stuff, so it's all repeatable.
okay, okay.
And I haven't been paying attention to bits too much. I know bits has made some improvements, but this jig just really helps with that, because I know what you're talking about with the 4 millimeter, man. Like trying to get that perfect contact, especially if you're trying to run anything over a 2-degree helical, is tough. But I'll tell you what, that's the best advice I can give you is try this jig out, and it's a phenomenally priced jig too.
Okay.
So it's sweet. I've
And,
had a
and
lot
I'm
of luck
guessing
with
I can order that through you then.
it. 100%.
Perfect.
Yep. We'll save a couple bucks.
We'll talk. We'll talk later about that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and are you a 4 millimeter arrow guy? Or are you a 5 or 6, or what's
I'm
your
not
thoughts?
I'm a 5, man, and there's no I want to tell everybody listening, I just want you to know there's no right or wrong arrow to shoot. There's no right or wrong fletching to shoot. There's just different things that are better suited for different terrain, different animals you're hunting. So when I build arrows for people, I collect a lot of information from them. I want to know, because I build arrows, man. I honestly build more for people out of state than in state.
Okay.
So I have a lot of questions I ask them. I want to know the game they're hunting. I want to know what kind of shots they're hoping to take range wise. I want to know draw weight, obviously. And then like sometimes I get a target weight from them of what they kind of want their arrow to be, or sometimes they just completely leave it up to me. Like for example, like a 4 millimeter I find to be super appropriate for elk hunting with mechanical broadheads, because if you're going to hunt elk with mechanicals, which a lot of people do now, you do need all the help with the penetration you can get. So the 4 millimeter definitely helps. 4 millimeters are known to be a little more durable. And to be honest with you, I guess one of the reasons I just don't shoot them, they can be more finicky on the tune, especially if you're shooting a super high poundage bow. So you really
Okay.
got to work the fletchings right on that one. And fletching setups, man, that just all depends too. Like if people are shooting mechanicals, I'll usually go with a more forgiving fletching setup. Usually try to stick to a 3-fletch, maybe keep the vanes a little smaller. If we go to fixed heads, we're going to go with something a little stiffer, maybe a little bigger head, maybe add just 1 degree helical more to that. So yeah, it depends, man. I ask people if they're going to be hunting, open terrain where they got to buck a lot of wind. That's the
Right.
other thing, or if they're high mountain hunters, like I hunt all my elk, man, in high mountain country, and it's all pretty thick, so
Yeah. But
all of those.
you live in Livingston, where you get to play with the wind every time you shoot, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You want to be an archer in this town, you're going to get better just from having to practice in our conditions here, because it's brutal.
And I'm out in Three Forks, opposite, equal distance away from the store there, and on the other side. And I thought I was going to a less windy place. I lived in Ennis for a year over 2020, and it was terribly windy. And I don't think I downgraded the wind situation. I just made it a little different location for hunting camp there. But yeah, talk to Kane if you're interested, and he'll get you set up with the good arrow setup. But that's not what we want to focus, or I necessarily want to focus on tonight. I want to focus on kids in archery, stuff like that. So you've got 2-year-old, and boy or girl?
As a boy. Yep.
2-year-old boy. Awesome. So is he shooting bows yet?
Not yet. He loves to be in the shop, and he loves to touch them and everything like that. He's got a couple little toys that, you start out with, like those little suction cup arrow bows.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely a little too small to actually be shooting anything yet. It's all just toys,
Okay.
I'm jealous of you, man. Your kids are like at that age where you're really getting them into it, archery and shooting. And
yeah,
I gotta wait a while.
It'll be here way before you know it. I was there a couple of years ago, and I'm like, man, all of a sudden, but I've talked to some friends, and they're like, oh, with even my 5-year-old, he loves to shoot bows. He doesn't want to shoot BB guns. He still likes shooting 22s at the range a little bit, but he would much rather go outside and shoot the elk target with the bow there. And even the bow I've got is just a little Bear compound youth kids bow that's, I don't know, 18 pounds or something draw weight, but it's still way too big of a draw length and stuff. And some people are like, oh, you're getting bad habits and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I'll create the addiction now and fix the bad habits later. And whether that's right or wrong, that's my approach in theory that I'm taking on to it.
There's like, dude, guns are a little different. You can get your kid a gun at a pretty young age that he can kind of carry through with him, and bows are different. Kids are growing constantly, and draw lengths and draw weights are changing, and their trajectory of their arrows changing. So it's very it's definitely for parents that want to die penniless.
Right.
If you want.
Well, the archery industry has got to start them young, that they need a new bow every year that depreciates worse than a pickup or something.
It's terrible. It's terrible, man.
Yeah, it's I've talked about that. I'm a try and get a year-old bow and use it for 3 to 4 years and not get that initial chunk of depreciation, but still they're depreciating after 1 year, and then year 1 to 2 is almost the same dollar amount. So I probably should just go buy new bows every year and shoot those.
That's what I do, man, and I get my butt kicked every year on the one I sell. And I do. I actually sell them. I usually end up selling them for a good price, but a good price is, and I still lose like $2,000 or something on every bow. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, now you've got an archery shop, so you get a tax write-off and a little LLC going on, and some benefits. So hopefully it'll work out there for you. So for that parent that's looking to get their kids going, are there any specific bows or even, I've got a 7-year-old, so probably in 2 to 3 years, I'm going to start thinking about, okay, let's get a bow that he might be able to hunt with. And I know that Matthews or Mission has got like their adjustable draw length, adjustable poundage bows, and I'm sure there's a few other companies doing it. Do you have experience like tuning those, working on those? How do those work out? What's your suggestions?
Yeah, Mission is exactly what I was going to go with, man. If kids are starting in archery and they're going to get to the point where they're going to be pulling 40 pounds or more, definitely look into the Mission. They have I can't name any of the specific ones off the top of my head, but those are bows that are highly adjustable. And they're not the most tunable bows. We're not going to get kids shooting bullet hole bear shafts or anything like that. But Mission is definitely the way to go to just get them into something that's going to be adequate when they do want to start hunting, that it can kill an animal. A super forgiving bow, something that has a ton of adjustment in that draw length, because honestly, man, you don't want to get your kids into flagship bows until they're done growing. I mean, unless you can afford it. But yeah, Mission is such a great line. When kids are really young, people buy a lot of different Amazon brand bows that are fine just to get them shooting reps in the house. But Mission is such a good way to go. I have tuned a couple of them for kids. It's mainly just yoke tuning, moving rest around. They don't quite micro tune like our bows do with a bunch of cam shimming and all these other crazy things. I know you just picked up a dart. Did you get your dart in Tritech yet?
Yeah, well, I don't have the Tritech. I went with the last year's model because I couldn't find a Tritech, and I wanted to spring bear hunt with a new bow. Yep.
Yeah. So and that new Tritech, man, has some of the craziest tuning features we've ever seen. So unfortunately, the kids' bows are just not quite there. They're not really shooting arrows fast enough anyway for us to get a good measure. But you can definitely get a decent tune out of it, and just give them a really forgiving broadhead in the beginning anyway. I don't know, man. It depends on how quick you want kids to be shooting at animals. Because as much as I'm into archery, as much as you are into archery, as much as we want our kids to do this, they definitely need to start out on guns and then work their way up to a bow. Because I mean, if you're going to take out a kid hunting elk with a 40-pound bow,
you're right. Yeah. No, I'm thinking, javelinas in Arizona or something like that to try and get them started. But there again, yes, and we can expound on that. And I think really know your limits and maybe even rabbit hole into guns a little bit. I would say I would like to encourage anyone listening to this that, get your guns, get your kids shoot, and even parents. One of the things that drives me nuts, I mentioned to you before we started recording, I think, that I've had a history in long range shooting and did some competitions and stuff like that. And, I have shot some animals at some extreme distances, maybe too far for most people, but I feel like the year I did that, I was shooting a ton. It was pre-kids, and I had a great job and a great income and an awesome wife. And, when you're going to the range and shooting 300 or 400 rounds every single weekend through your rifle, and then going to matches and classes every weekend, all of a sudden what might be somebody's 250 yards that shoots their grandpa's 30-06 that they sighted in 3 years ago is now like 1,000-yard shot for a guy that's practicing a lot. And that's kind of my pet peeve is don't take, and if you are a bow hunter, don't take and sight in the gun 2 years ago and then get to the end of the season, need to get some meat on the table and go wound an animal you can wound them just as easy with a rifle, and probably in Montana, where we're both from, more animals get wounded with a rifle than a bow every year. So that's a little bit of my soapbox, but I definitely agree. Get the kids used to shooting guns, get them around it. I know my son is shooting BB gun right now with the local Gallatin Valley sharpshooters. He's 7 years old. He goes and shoots BB gun twice a week. I've had some friends that I have mentored in hunting that have grown up in other states and never hunted, and they started wanting to hunt like 3 or 4 years ago. And we spent a lot of time on the range with hunting rifles, but really they could still to this day benefit coming over and shooting the BB guns in my basement, because you can learn how to shoot with a good trigger control without a flinch. And I think that's why some guys with archery learn their limitations a little better, and you can kind of weigh in your thoughts on this, but I feel like it's easier to practice with a bow, so you can realize that you can't take 150-yard shots with a bow because you're shooting 20 to 200 rounds or arrows every night. Kind of what's your thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, man. And the best part about archery is and it's great that you get these things done in your house, like even shooting BB guns and stuff like that. But the best part about archery is when we start them early, we could do so many reps in the house of blank bailing. And it's a lot cheaper than reloading bullets every weekend to, keep your gun going. but you kind of you have the same idea I have, man, where you're doing this in your house, like, and that's another thing I really encourage people. I know that that's nothing everybody has a choice over, but it's crazy how many people are just shooting bows across their kitchens and stuff. Like, I mean, dude, when I shoot my bow every day, and that doesn't mean I'm outside. I'm in here in the shop shooting. I can basically, from where I'm sitting, I can shoot like 7 yards, and I just put the tiniest little dots on the target to basically simulate, shooting further. I'm just aiming at something a lot smaller. So everybody, like, please remember, like, you do not need to be outside to be working on archery technique. I mean, the funny part is that a lot of the technique we can build is shooting a target that's right in front of you and working on pull through and all that stuff. Like, and that's a really good way to get kids going, man, is in the beginning when we're really kind of trying to get form and things like that in technique. Like, the first thing we don't want them doing, man, is trying to look down this peep at a sight and put an arrow on a target. Like, there's a lot more steps into bows. Put a giant target right in front of them, 3 feet away, have them draw their bow back, and just have them get reps and reps and reps and reps and keep correcting things. And then, start to transition into looking through the peep and looking down the sight, because it's just, when you take these slow steps, it works a lot better, and shoot. And I'm not trying to say that shooting guns is simpler by any means. There's just a lot more in the process of shooting a bow to make an accurate shot on an animal. There's so many things in our form we can work on that don't involve shooting 20 plus yards outside.
Right.
Archery equipment these days, the one bad thing about the advancement in equipment, it's giving people a lot of false hopes for what they're actually capable of. And when we're working on kids with technique and stuff at close ranges, we're nailing down the good things first. A lot of people just want to skip to the part where I just want to be shooting 80 yards and I want to be getting these groups and stuff like that, which, people are going to have different opinions about this. I don't really think there's many archers out there that should be shooting animals at 80 yards or further. There's people that are totally capable of it. There's not many. But it's all about those building blocks in the beginning, man. Like, the getting an arrow on a dot, that's something that we don't have to get to right away. There's so many things. And I'm telling you, if you take those steps, and kids, you won't stress a kid out, blank bailing with a target right in front of them. You get that muscle memory going, because that's how we get good with our bows, man, is when we get our reps and it's muscle memory. And that's why I don't need to shoot outside, man. I just need to keep I need to shoot my bow enough and be in touch with it. So when I draw back on an animal, everything is natural, everything feels smooth. My mentality is, I got this. I'm good. I feel good. And unfortunately, the handful of guys out there that, have repeatedly wounded animals, it's just not being in touch with your equipment. You've shot rifle, bow, you understand. It's about being in touch with your weapons, just like you are with a person or any of your other hobbies. And there's so many things to work on besides just hitting a target. I mean, as you plainly know with rifles, you can get a kid in the basement and you can dry fire. You can dry fire over and over again. That's the equivalent to shooting a bow at a blank bail at a couple feet away, is working on technique, So
right.
Get that down in the beginning.
Yep. And then I feel like with archery equipment, I think you said that there's more processes, but I feel like people, because there's more processes or it's a little bit harder, spend a lot more time shooting bows or practicing archery before they hunt, whereas they think that shooting a rifle is simpler. But when you really get down to the nitty gritty of it and in the details and stuff, it can be fairly technical as well. Shooting long range, I like to, I'm not an engineer, but I like to take an engineering and an analytical approach. And you think of, if you're shooting your bow at a standing elk 80 yards away, and even if he's just standing there, not even moving, not ducking your arrow or anything, the time of flight from when you release that arrow to when it gets on target, he can take a step, and a step's like 4 feet. That's the difference between like guts and heart there, or guts and lungs. And that's even with long range shooting. There has been lots of instances 2 years ago, for example, I had two bull elk at 970 yards or 950 yards, and I shoot a custom Defiance 338 Lapua. I've got more energy at 900 yards than most guys have at the barrel with 30-06, but the wind was whipping, it was blowing. I hadn't been shooting a lot that year. I'd maybe put 20 or 30 rounds through my 338, not 500 like I had previously when I did harvest an animal at a long range, and I'm like, man, it's just not worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And even with that big of a bullet and that much caliber, it's still got to be perfect. You can still lose animals with big guns. You can make mistakes with big guns, and there again with archery. And I think that's awesome for you to encourage people. I've made a last minute decision on my house to add 10 more feet, so I've got 20 yards that I can shoot I'm 66 feet long, so I can shoot 20 yards full in my basement. But like you say, the blind bailing, do you do aiming drills? That's something like pull back and just hold the pins on a target and then let down, or?
No, not as much these days. That was a technique that Levi Morgan was really big about for a long time. I did it in the beginning for a long time until when I shot competitive for years. I struggled with target panic incredibly. Switched over to hinge releases a long time ago, and that definitely helped me a lot. I don't do that anymore, man, just the drawback and let down. I highly encourage that method, though. It works really, really well. And that's another thing that's like equivalent to dry firing. I highly, highly encourage it. It was something, and like, I mentioned Levi Morgan's name. Pay attention to people, man, that are better than us at this. Like, that's one of the best things you can do to get better at anything. Pay attention to people that are better and really take in what they do. Like, if you watch Levi Morgan hunt, the guy shoots every animal. He shoots right through the center punch every single shot, every single time. So it's, get on, look at your heroes and look at these people online. They have tons of resources on getting better with a bow. So yeah, that was something I did for a long time. And these days I'm focusing more on like the Joel Turner aspects, I guess.
Yeah.
The deeper mental science, if you will.
Getting loud in your brain. We won't give out all the secrets on here, but and I've taken taken Joel's class 2 different times, and it's, for me, it was when I was younger, I struggled with a flinch with a rifle. I wrestled 100 pounds when I was a freshman in high school, and my dad got me a lightweight 270 because he shot at 270, and a lighter weight one was what was good to pack and stuff like that. And man, dads, get out and get your kids guns that don't recoil. Yes. You can take a 223 with the right bullet, and you can kill moose, elk, deer, whatever. Just know the limitations, get good shot play, good bullets out there, and don't have them develop a flinch from a guy who's got a flinch. And I was shooting with Joel, and I'm like, man, it's frustrating. With my rifle, I can shoot it, and I know, and I told myself not to flinch, and I'll flinch once every 1,000 shots, and then I'll say that was dumb and fix it and quit being an idiot. It's not going to hurt you, and pull the trigger again. I'm good for another 1,000. But with your bow, and I think he told me, or someone told me, he's like, think about it. You have this bow exploding in your hand, and all that energy is going into the arrow. But if it wasn't going into the arrow, it'd be exploding in your hand. And some of the bows these days are really nice and really smooth and don't have a lot of hand shock or anything like that, but you still have a whole bow. And in my opinion, fighting the target panic or fighting the flinch is 10 times harder with a bow for me than it is with a rifle. So it's more and more important, like you say, that we get the blind bail reps and the blank reps in and stuff. Out of curiosity, what age or what time frame do you think that you take a kid from shooting in the yard and trying to shoot gophers or targets or fling arrows or whatever to trying to teach them technique and form and aiming the bow and stuff like that? What age would you say, or where have you thought about that with your son when you're going to try and make that transition?
Yeah, and that's definitely not a one size fits all. It's hard to even believe, but Joel Turner claims he started his son at 10 months old, with actual technique and things like that.
Right,
and
right.
Most kids don't even have that ability, and you got to just pay attention, man. I I don't want to say a specific age range on here. There's kids out there that learn perfect technique very young. With our kids, man, it's all about dad and mom having to make those calls about what they're ready for and what they're not. I mean, there's some kids. I mean, there some of the kids in archery now, man, it's crazy. Like Bodie Turner went in Vegas at 15 years old,
Right.
like when he could have shot the youth class, and he was in Vegas competing against some of the the biggest and baddest boys in archery there was. And if you watch that finale, like the proof's in the pudding, man. If anybody doubts Joel Turner, I mean, just look at his kid.
Right.
When you watch that kid on that stage at 15 years old shooting in the most high pressure tournament in the world in Las Vegas, and you're watching his eyes and you're watching that target and you see that mental focus, it is one of the most humbling things ever, man. I would have been shaking like a leaf, and he was 15 years old,
Yep.
But he started at a very young age. Yeah, no age frame really, man. I would say that as you just got to keep your eye on things, like, when you start the blank bailing, whatever bad habits they're doing, try to get them out of those before, we're working on actual technique and, shooting more expensive bows and things like that. You got to pay attention.
Yep. So transition a little bit. Have you, you've got a 2-year-old son. I'm pretty sure I've seen on social media that you've had him out in the field hunting along with you and stuff. Yeah.
Isn't
that the best?
It is, man. It was the year he was only I think he was only like 7 months old. Our first hunting season, we tried taking him along, and that just wasn't. He was basically still an infant. We took him on some antelope hunts with us. That just really wasn't working out. This year was a lot different. He was actually there for quite a few hunts. He was there when my wife killed her whitetail, and it's just so fun, man, having him. He was with I helped a buddy kill a cow that he was there for. The opening morning, I think, of rifle season, my wife and I hiked up 2 different sections of this mountain. I carried him on my back, and it was actually incredible. I hiked up this mountain. I had elk in front of me right away, and I took him off my back and set him down, and I got on the ground and got all set up in case there was a bull in this herd. And I'm looking through my scope, and all of a sudden I feel something, and he was turning my turret on my scope. And I was like, oh, great.
Trying to help you out, Dad.
Yeah. And there was a little brush bull in that group, and they ended up walking away. Met back up with my wife, and she's like, you should have just shot it just for the memory. And I'm like, I know, I was being selfish.
Most hunters spend all summer shooting at a foam block, a static, worn-out 3D target with a scoring ring, or a bright orange bullseye. But when the buck or bull of a lifetime steps out at a steep quartering angle, that orange dot, scoring ring, or spot on the block is nowhere to be found. You've been training for a scenario that doesn't exist. If you want to be lethal when it matters, you have to train with reality. That's why I use and recommend Dead Nuts Outdoors. They are 100% made in the USA, producing lifelike, ultra high-definition 2D targets that bring the field to your backyard. We're talking real animal images, life-sized and built to withstand whatever Mother Nature throws at them. Unlike traditional targets that force you into a perfect broadside shot, Dead Nuts features multiple shot angles because in the woods, animals are unpredictable. Dead Nuts ensures that you're ready for the shot of a lifetime, every time. These targets are ultralight and packable. You can throw them in the truck for hunting camp or slide them under a bed in the off-season. Their slogan says it all: hit the spot, not the dot. Hit it, Dead Nuts. Stop practicing, start preparing. Head over to www.deadnutsoutdoors.com and use my personal code FIELD10 to take 10% off your entire order site-wide. You can also find the link right here in the show notes. Train for the reality of the hunt. Hit it, Dead Nuts. In the woods or on the water, it's the small details that dictate success or failure. A ruined diaphragm call or a lost fly isn't just a nuisance, it's a blown opportunity. You spend thousands on the hunt, don't lose it because you didn't protect your tools. Puck Outdoors has solved this with their 100% made in the USA modular twist lock storage systems. For the hunters, the Puck keeps your elk and turkey mouth calls protected, organized, and ready to run. No more warped reeds or searching through pockets, junk drawers, or truck floorboards. For the fisherman, the fishing puck features a magnetic tray and 4 modular components that keep your hooks, flies, and weights locked down and exactly where you need them. It's compact, it's rugged, and it's built to keep your most critical gear in peak condition season after season. The best part is they fit right in your pocket, bino harness or fishing vest. Don't let poor organization be the reason you come home empty-handed. Go to puckoutdoors.com and use the code FIELD10 to get yours. That's FIELD10. You can also find the link right here in the show notes. Protect your calls. Secure your tackle, puck in, pack out. We've all been there. You're 6 hours into a sit, the buck you're after is nowhere in sight, and your knees are absolutely barking against the bark of that tree. Most hunters just suck it up until they can't take it anymore and head for the truck. But you can't fill a tag from the couch. Comfort isn't a luxury, it's a tactical advantage that keeps you in the game longer. That's why you need the knee bag by Light the Fire Outdoors. This isn't some cheap foam pad. It's a patent-pending, bead-filled design that actually molds to your knees and supports your hips. Built from ultra-tough, weatherproof Cordura, it won't soak up water or gain weight when weather turns sideways. It features padded wings that cradle your knees and even has MOLLE attachments for your thermocell or gear. The best part? It's a multi-season tool. Strap it to your body for saddle hunting, mount it to the tree as a pad, or when rifle season hits, turn it sideways. It becomes a rock-solid 15-inch tree-mounted shooting bag for those precision shots. I also like to use it as a rear bag, or sit on it and use it as a glassing pad when I'm western hunting. Whether you want a coyote tan or mossy oak bottomland, this is the gear that evolves with your hunt. Stop fighting your gear and start focusing on the hunt. Get yours at www.prayingandslaying.com and use my code FIELD10 to get free shipping on your order. You can also hit the link in the show notes. The knee bag. Comfort evolved. Stay steady, stay ready.
My wife's passion, man, is hunting whitetails out of a blind, and she's really hoping to get to the point where he's sitting in there with her. Right now, he's doing a lot of that loud babbling, so that's not really going to work in that scenario yet. So we're working our way up to it. We're super, super excited, though, man, to get him out and have him in a blind or something like that. I doubt it'll be a while before he's going to the places I hunt elk in with my bow, because even I cry going into those places. So
Right.
That'll be a hot minute.
So yeah, and that's awesome, and it's funny that you mentioned. So my 7-year-old does not shut up. I mean, I love him to death, but if it wasn't his bedtime, he'd be wanting to have this podcast with us, and definitely has the gift of gab. And I can see him when he's getting a little bit older. Definitely, I ask him what he wants to do when he grows up, and he says that he wants to be a YouTube fisherman and have a YouTube channel fishing. So I'm like, good for you, do it. I will support you.
There's people making such a legitimate living doing that now, man. It's just all
I know.
I think about is like, what are we doing wrong?
Exactly. I hear you for sure. But yeah, I'd say like you say, there's a few things. And you touched on, and I want to kind of expand. It's like you mentioned that you had a group come by, a group of elk, and had that brush bull and could have potentially shot that, but you wanted to hold out for a bigger one. And I guess that I feel like is the biggest thing. As I'm a parent, it's what is important in that experience. I definitely want to have my boys along for the harvest, and my older son, when he was younger, I've had him along for some harvests and stuff like that. And I think that's important because I think our kids need to know where the food comes from, realize that animals die, appreciate the divinity of life, and that but my boys are going to know where their food comes from, and that there is a circle of life.
And they're going to know what kind of work goes into it too, because the process isn't easy.
Exactly. And I do have them to the point now that they actually do help cut up meat a little bit. And so I cut up chunks and they cut them smaller to go through the grinder and stuff like that, and that's good, and they have a shorter attention span. But I guess that's kind of the balance in the thing that I'm wondering as my kids are getting older is what is that balance to push them so that they gain mental toughness, but not push them so far that you ruin the experience and then they'd ever want to go with you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot to that too. Yeah.
and so you mentioned you had him out at 7 months, taken and going up, and then this year he was in your backpack as you were hiking up opening day. Is that
I
correct?
had, yeah, so my wife and her, she was hiking a couple mile, like about a mile away from me, and her pack had all the essentials we needed. I just had the baby backpack with him in the back because that's all I could really carry. Like I thought carrying my gear up a mountain was tough, man. When I was hiking that steep hill with my son on my back, man, my calves were just burning so badly. So yeah, he just rode in one of those like Osprey kid packs, and
Okay, okay.
I had this funny idea before he was born of I'm never going to have to stop shooting my bow. I'll have my son in that backpack. I don't know if you shot your bow when you were younger with your son in a backpack.
No, no,
It's terrible.
yeah,
It's terrible. Every time they move even a finger, and it's also it screws up your center of gravity too. And
right.
every time they even make a tiny movement, man, your pin is floating everywhere. I tried it a few times, and it's like you gotta be something else first, like have some type of other strength to shoot a bow accurately with a kid in your back.
So, what did you feel with the Osprey pack with kids, and was
Yeah.
that an adequate pack to take hunting
Yeah.
with your kids and stuff like that, or do you feel
Yeah.
that's a good piece of gear for guys to use and go down that path? Or
100%. My buddy that has kids that are slightly older, which is awesome when you have friends that have boys that are just a bit older. You kind of inherit a few things,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he gave you that pack. It's excellent. It adjusts as they grow. You have to worry about you too. Like all you dads out there listening to this, like make sure the pack is comfortable for you. Like yes, his comfort's number one. But if when kids get to be over 25 pounds and you put them in a backpack, because those things aren't light either, they've got aluminum frames in them. That Osprey pack, that is, you can find them anywhere online. It's a great little pack, and yeah, the adjustability is nice. It has a harness in them to keep them, really secure. If it's cold, it can be a little tough when you're bundling them all up and trying to strap them into that harness, but I'll tell you what, he never made a peep on the hike up the whole way there and back. Kids, when they're that little, man, like if you're hiking, you're looking for elk and stuff and you're hunting and they're just back there just loving life. They're just looking around, enjoying the view. I mean, think about it. Like think about right now, if somebody was carrying you up a mountain, how luxurious
right,
and
yeah,
nice
yeah,
and pleasant that
exactly.
would be,
Yep, yep. Well, and then so another trick I can't remember. It wasn't an Osprey pack when my boys were younger, but and admittedly I'm cheap, so I went and bought something off a marketplace for a kids pack, and it might have been a Kelty or one of those brands. I took my boy or my son Joey up to them that day one time, and I was like, this is the worst thing ever. So what I ended up doing, I can't remember. I go through packs worse than my wife goes through purses, but I think at that time I was using a Mystery Ranch pack, and I had a buddy tell me to just put them in the bag of the pack instead of
Yeah.
your gear, and then cut a square block of wood for them to stand on. And so I have taken my boys up many, many drainages, standing in the back of my whatever hunting pack, and I
Oh,
pull the lid off and I just put a block of wood in. And I feel like that is much better for me. But like you said, and maybe you're a little better in this area than I am, but you've got to take and make sure your kid's comfortable too.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I tell my kids that life is hard for me and was hard, and it's always going to be hard. And sorry you got born in my family because we don't get things easy. So toughen
No.
up and earn it.
No,
Um, but
that whole tough it up and earn it, man. That's going to be a big part of getting your kids into this is the whole earning it part. Kids, when kids are actually getting their hunting license and stuff, they get easily discouraged on those days where you put those long hikes in. You don't see an animal. There's hunters everywhere. Your kids are going to feed off you, man. Like you have to be optimistic, and you got to have that drive, and you got to make it fun, and you got to have laughs, and you got to have, you got to be joking around, like, because I think like my brother didn't take to hunting like I did. I think, and one of the things, and he always has hunted in and out, but the thing that discouraged him when we were younger was being out on a long, cold, rainy day and not seeing an animal. And, he was not up for getting up Sunday the next morning at 4 a.m. and doing it all over again, and I just took to it differently, So
Right, right.
that's big on mom and dad to make sure you're keeping the experience, in a way where unsuccessful days are still some of the best days you're going to have.
Yep. And I think that as times have changed and gear is much better. I mean, I'm 45 years old, so when I was younger, I remember my dad had a moose tag down the canyon when I was 14 years old, I think, and I was a small 14-year-old. I wrestled 98 pounds my freshman year in high school, so that can tell you where I was at 14. And my dad's 6'2" and big long strides and stuff, and I had the Sorel boots and with the bread sacks around the boots because they couldn't they wouldn't keep your feet warm. But I would encourage the guys listening to this, don't go you buy yourself the nice Stone Glacier coat and puffies or whatever if you don't need them, or if you have something. You should be able to be a lot more mentally tough than your kids and do things like it. We go ice fishing or we go camping, and I pack, I don't know, 30 hand warmers for the boys. And they start asking for hand warmers, a half hour out from the trailhead because they like playing with warm hand warmers, and they go through, I don't know, 10 a day a piece, or 10 pairs a day a piece. I mean, they got to be hot and they've got to have them in every pocket, it seems like, and stuff like that. But I think that's stuff that gets them out there, gets them wanting to enjoy the time with you, having a fun time. I think, building fires, throw in some marshmallows, roast some marshmallows, I think make that experience as pleasant as you can for your kids, and you'll be blessed to be able to hunt with them. And yeah, you've got to take and you said you were a little bit selfish because you didn't shoot that bull, but you weren't too selfish because you were hunting with your kids on opening day,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is you have to realize that you've got to make sacrifices. If you want them to hunt with you, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You mainly these days public land hunter all the way. Is that kind of the game you live in?
Mostly, yeah. I have a couple little private land ins, mainly just for archery, antelope, and that's about it. But yeah, public land for the most part, man. My wife's family does have a ranch outside of town here that we have whitetails on, so a lot of whitetail hunting on private land over the years. But this year, I wanted to take it to a new level and try something that people didn't think I could do, which was spot and stalking a high mountain public land whitetail. So not only public land, but one of those 7,000-foot bucks that people think are non-existent. Like, that's the thing, man. Like, I have had some good private land opportunities in my life, but all you got to do to get me to try something else is tell me I can't do it. High mountain whitetails, man, they're a bit of a ghost, let alone, killing one with a bow that you spot and stalk on the ground, So yeah, I was a little spoiled with whitetails for years out there tree stand hunting because I didn't, man, I would always go elk hunting first. And if I shot an elk and suffered for it, I had no problem telling people, yeah, I'm going to go out to the ranch and I'm going to sit in a tree stand and I'm going to just enjoy life, and I'm going to enjoy the sounds of nature and whitetails coming by, and hopefully I get one, But yeah, I've taken some private land opportunities for sure, man. I think we all should if we get them because they're
and that's the thing, is I think that lately it has become an ego thing, or people look down on you and say, "Oh, you're not a public land hunter," and and I'm a public land hunter because all the ranches I hunted growing up got sold, and I can't hunt private land anymore. If it was up to me, I would be a private land hunter through and through. I just don't have the means to do that, But at the same time, and I'm hoping to have a good friend of mine on at a later episode, do not be afraid to use those opportunities for your kids. There are a lot of landowners still out there that are willing to take and let kids shoot their first bucks. And I feel like, when I was younger, and even to this day, my dad was a farmer, grew up a farmer in north central Montana, and he's where I got my gift of gab from, and likes to visit, and I really should have him on to talk about how to get access to private land, because he'll go to some corner of the state that we've never hunted before, talk to the one guy, find out his name's John, and John tells him Fred owns that property that buck's been bedded on all day. And so he goes and talks to 8 people to get to Fred, and by the time he knows Fred would think he's his best friend, because he knows all about him and his kids and everything else. And lo and behold, somehow he has some connection from somebody he grew up with or something to get that. But I think these are life skills that are important to our kids. A lot of these kids are, the easy way to parent is to take and let them stay home and sit on an iPad all day instead of taking them out hunting. And I think if we take and I didn't like it when I was a kid. We'd pull up to a farmhouse, and we hunted a lot north of Big Timber growing up, back when you could door knock and hunt those areas. And the first thing my dad did is, okay, boys, get out of the truck, and we'd have friends that we hunted with, and all of us boys, and he would make us knock on the door, and he'd make us ask, and my gosh, it was terrible. But then it set me up for a really good career in sales and life, because you learn how to get rejected, you learn how to take and ask the question, and I think this day and age, all you got to do is show up and ask the question, because 90% of the people these days aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't, man. I any private land I hunted in my teens, I lost it for the same reason you did, man. That's ranches got sold. Everybody's leasing now to outfitters or doing trespass fees, which, you can't blame these ranchers, man. People that are working 365 days a year and hardly profiting. If there's money to make off of hunting, the commercialization of it, which is it's definitely had a negative effect on all of us, average Joes, if you will. But, you can't really blame them for it. And, I'm fortunate enough, my wife's family still has this place. I'm kind of hoping my son can learn some things out there. That'd be a really great start to everything. But there's a lot of uncertainty there as well. It's just when you take your kids hunting now, man, it's going to be a lot different than when our dads took us hunting. Things are much harder. They are. I mean, there's been a give and a take. Like there were more trophy class animals around a long time ago, but the equipment was a lot more primitive. Now there's less trophy class animals, but guns and bows have evolved so much that people are shooting longer range. So you have to take that you have to account for that, and you got to teach kids the reality of it all. I mean, it's like you said, sometimes in the mornings it would suck. Your dad drags you out, it might be raining, it's freezing, but I grew up the same way you did. My dad doing that with me every weekend, man. I mean, I did not grow up building sheds and working on cars, nothing like that. It was hunting, which the only negative effect it had is I'm not a very handy person. But I grew up hunting every chance I had. My dad and I were chasing something. There was always something to chase. And it got so deep in my blood, I never learned any other way of life. And I'm hoping that my son is saying this someday. I hope your kids are saying these same things someday, but I'm so thankful for my dad who, taught me about this, got me to love something that is applicable to every part of my life, man. Like, it's like you said, you learn about rejection, you learn about earning in a very hard way. And, and unfortunately not every kid is going to fall in love with it. It's just kind of the way it is. But, you and I have a responsibility to our boys to teach them that there is way more to it than pulling the trigger or, releasing an arrow on an animal.
Yep. And I think there too, I don't think we should be afraid to take our kids and go sit in a tree stand,
No.
build into those opportunities. And the whole trespass thing, I prided myself, it had for a lot of years, and I still can say that, I've been able to get it done without paying for a trespass fee. I've been on one guided hunt in my life that I won, I think from a competition, and so which I basically earned. I could have bought the hunt for less than the hours I put in to win in the competition, but. But I still think I do consider that, you've got some sources and some things out there like land trust, and it's like, man, I can take my kid to Eastern Montana for a 4-day weekend and spend $400 in gas, or I can take him to a place on the East Gallatin and shoot a whitetail doe, and it'll save money and it'll be less. But I just haven't been able to bring myself. I don't want hunting to become a rich man's game, and so I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. But at the same time, I've got a cousin who's got a ranch in southeastern Montana, and he's on the land trust program. And like you say, you can't blame him. He probably makes more money taking and having hunters come on his land and put them up in a bunkhouse than he does running cattle, which I could go down a rabbit hole to why I believe that's incorrect, but I'm not going to try and get on a political podcast here for guys. I'm just going to try and get them to encourage their kids to hunt there. But, and also, I mean, this year, like I mentioned earlier, I was building a house. I was busy. I didn't get much time to hunt. I did shoot an elk from a tree stand while I was whitetail hunting. It was antlerless, but I got meat in the freezer. Unfortunately, I didn't have my son with me, but earlier in that year, or earlier in the season, I was up in a tree stand with my son, or tree saddle, and he got to see an elk bugle 150 yards away and experience that and see the elk, and still talks about it this day from a tree stand. And I hate to say it, in our neck of the woods, I'm seriously considering hitting up some of those Midwest guys to become a big whitetail hunter and let everybody else chase the elk and do all the hard work, and have less pressure going and shooting whitetail. And you know,
everybody their own, man. I do not like the competition out there between dudes that, say, if you don't hunt elk, you're not a man. If you don't hunt this, you're not a man. There's people that have lived the happiest life on the planet, never doing anything except hunting a whitetail out of a tree stand. And, that's where they get their joy. Yep. That's where they get their joy. That's where they get their adrenaline, man. I mean, you and I just happen to hunt more species. I will basically chase any legal species there is, because it's just all different and interesting. But I would never, ever discourage somebody that just wants to be passionate about one type of hunting, man. If they take pride in it and they work at it and they kill big animals, all the power to them.
Yep. Well, and I think, I mean, for me, the reason I hunt more animals is just because I, like you, want to hunt year round and all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what can we do to extend our season and hunt more? And I feel like learning more animals, but that's something, small game hunting. I think you can look at that for kids to get them out there and get experience and have more pleasant time in the field, or not have to go backpack in for 3 or 4 days and freeze your butt off and cry when you get to your elk spot, but as we're sitting here, we're about a month out from spring bear. So, I know you and I like to, or you, like I do, want to torture yourself by carrying a bow around, chasing spring bear when everybody else takes rifles. Is that kind of still your thought process? Or are you thinking maybe you're going to carry a rifle and take the kid out more? What's your thoughts with spring bear coming up?
I'm going to try to be more open-minded this year. So I actually just built my very first custom rifle recently.
Oh, okay.
Custom parts, everything, a really nice 6.5 PRC that is just shooting lights out. So I got to tell you, it's pretty tempting. It is very tempting. But, man, like spring bear spring bear spot in Stockton, Montana is my least successful bow hunt. So honestly, it just pushes me harder in that direction, to be honest with you. And I hunt a lot of terrain where it's a lot of thick stuff. There's not a lot of glassing points, so it's actually more appropriate with a bow anyway. I will have the bow out for sure for the most part. But if I can find some terrain to sit on where I can glass and maybe shoot something with this new gun, I mean, this past year, man, my bull I killed the first animal I shot with a rifle in a long time, and it was because of a good buddy that encouraged me to do it, and he got it in my head that it wasn't going to sour my experience at all, which it didn't. I had to get rid of this whole pride of I'm a stick and string guy. Like if it doesn't die by stick and string, I didn't prove anything to myself. And it's funny, man. No matter how much older I get, I'm learning things all the time. I'm learning that it does not have to sour an experience whatsoever. So I will be favoring the bow. I'm definitely going to be out opening weekend this year, especially with the type of winter we're having, and I plan to have my bow. But I got to tell you, man, like I just started, you were talking about competition shooting. I just shot my first PRS match on Saturday. I got into that stuff.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. A new money pit that I do not want to jump into. So I've actually been growing a really good taste for guns lately, man, and it's all applicable to both sides. You can applicate what you do in bows to rifles and the other way around. So yeah, I got to tell you, this new guns got me a little more open-minded about that. We'll kind of see how things go. I am heading to Canada in late May for bears up there, and that's definitely archery. So my big goal this year, my main goal, I would say, is 2 bears, 2 countries, both with a bow. So that's my ultimate goal.
So, well, and I took and 2 years ago said I was going 100% bow only, and hunted one weekend with a rifle that year, and then last season hunted one weekend with a rifle. But like you say, I think it's going to be early this year. I'm going up to meet a good buddy of mine and take our kids bear hunting, which is probably going to be, everybody can hate me now, but we're gonna drive around a lot in the mountains and look, and those are things that it's like I can still go. I can get my goats out. I still will go get my goats out. Probably I've got a lot. If I shoot a bear, I've got a lot of friends that want me to pack camp in for them. I'll still get my extreme backpacking in for a bear, but I think like you, I'm probably going to be packing that rifle at least opening weekend. I don't know. I don't have expectations to shoot anything, but it's an area that I have definitely had opportunities off the roads or short hikes down behind gates on logging roads and stuff like that, which I can take my boys on. And I've got a really nice bear in my living room, a full-size bear mounted. So, I'm good for some bear sausage. And if the boys are there and they're telling me to shoot it, even if it's a labber bear or something like that, a small one, I might have to show you pictures and be like, dude, this is what it is, and this is what it's about. And but I'm not going to be ashamed of it, because I'm taking and working on. I mean, I'm doing what I love with my boys, and hopefully they'll get that passion that you and I have been happy to grow up with, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, there's different ways to do that, man. There's some people that want to teach their kids just to shoot trophy class. There's people that, want to start their kids on smaller animals and work their way up. And there's people that are just meat hunters, that are just out to try to get their kids in for the experience and, put food in the freezer. That's the best part about hunting with your kids, man, is there's really no wrong way to go about it. I've seen people raise kids in every type of hunting you can think of. And I haven't decided yet, like I said, I'm eager to get to where you are, that age where the boy, it's just, we're ready to go. So, I don't know how that'll all shape up. We'll see. We'll see how excited my son gets at the first sight of something, and maybe he's going to do the same thing your boys are doing. Dad, shoot, and I'm going to be like, okay, and I just blast something,
Yeah. Well, what will more than likely happen is one son will say shoot it, and the other son will say, Dad, it's not big enough. Because I think one definitely watches a lot of YouTube and knows trophy animals, and I wouldn't shoot that. That's too small. And the other one's like, let's get her done.
I get a lot of credit. I get a lot of criticism, man, for never putting the bow down. But I definitely want my son someday to understand the experience of spot and stalk on an animal that you could easily kill with a rifle. but getting in those crazy high adrenaline,
Yep.
stocks,
Yep.
like I said, I love guns too. I do. But people wonder why I favor bow so much. And the only thing I can really tell you is there's only truth to it. And there's nothing that is going to quite get you in touch with nature and get you that intimate with nature than when you have to spot and stalk animals that close, man, and hunt the way that our ancestors did thousands of years ago.
Yep.
It's that primitive style of hunting, man. Like, yes, you can get the same adrenaline rush with a gun, but I would love for my son to be there someday, like, and have a couple of those feelings I did where, you're up close on a bear, an animal that can easily kill you. And, you're at that very intimate distance, and it's all about a good placement of an arrow. Like there's just something to that art that can't be beat.
Yep. Well, and the main thing that made me decide that I wanted to go bow only, even though now I'm rethinking that with kids and stuff, is just I worked really hard. One of my favorite animals to hunt is antelope, and a few years ago I finally shot one with my bow. And I'd had the antelope tag years previously, but I hadn't hunted it hard. I'd go out for 1 or 2 weekends, and then September comes, and there's nothing better than a bugle and bowl. So,
No.
it's just like, let's go find them. But when I was hunting antelope, I would have multiple times where I would get into that, 100 to 150 yard range on antelope. Like I could almost do that without every time. If it's worth going on a stock, I feel like I can get to that distance. But getting to 40 yards on an antelope is a nightmare. It's tough, and it's like, man,
So hard.
it's like, man, to take and be tuned in to that level of that danger close, bad breath distance with the animals that, like you tell, where you're so close to an animal that can kill you, it really takes the next level, and you can experience that with whitetail. I mean, I remember that same year I was in a tree stand with whitetail working, and man, I just made the slightest move, and I was in my puffies, and that doe pinned me down at 40 yards or 35 yards or something, and I'm like, I wear this clothes for rifle hunting, and I can move around all I want at 150 yards on an animal. But I barely take and shift my weight on 1 foot, and this animal pins me down. It's like, man, you really have to be in touch on that next level,
So
with
true,
those
man.
animals. So,
Yeah.
but I guess, like you said, like I've said, it doesn't matter what you do, uh, or what your method or means are. Get out there and take your kids and make it happen.
Yeah, yeah,
So.
and teach them. And like you said, man, you can get into birds, you can get into small game. There's so many different things to get them excited about. I have a lot of friends, man, that hunt, and there's just a bunch of animals that don't get them excited. There's just a certain one, and like I said earlier, that's fine. But the way my dad raised me, man, I tell you what, it doesn't matter if it's a small antelope, doesn't matter if it's the biggest bull of my life. Every time I'm in bow range getting ready to make that shot, I'm still shaking like a leaf to this day inside. I usually can get my composure together on the draw, but man, my heart is pounding out of my chest every time. And that's when I tell myself, if this ever stops, I'm quitting this forever.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is why I do this, is because there's not a single animal I don't hunt that when I get into bow range, my heart ain't jumping out of my chest. And
Yep.
I'm thankful for that. I just don't have certain things that just get me worked up. Like you said, nothing beats a bugle and bull. But they all do it to me, man. They all
Yeah.
give me that fever, and I'm really hoping that I pass that disease on to my boy, because
Right.
it's unexplainable. And especially, like, we were talking a lot about getting kids to embrace the suck and the parts that are unsuccessful, man. But holy cow, when it comes together, that's when that addiction just takes full hold. of a kid, and then next thing you know, they're dragging you out of bed to go hunting before you know it,
Yeah.
and they're daydreaming about it during the week. They got all their clothes lined up that Friday night ready to go. That's exactly what I did when I was little, man. I'll never forget it. I struggled in school just because of daydreaming all day at school about Saturday morning when my dad was going to come in our room and tug on my foot and be like, all right, it's time to go.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember all that.
Oh, the sleepless nights before opening day. Like I would,
Yes.
the Friday night or back when I was younger, opening day was on Sundays too. And so the Saturday nights or those nights and I would just lay there all night and toss and turn and toss and turn and just wait for my dad to come wake me up,
Yep.
because I wanted to get out there for sure.
Yep.
Sure. So
same exact thing, man. I'm so thankful that I grew up that way. I had a great childhood because of it, and now it's just taken a hold of me in my adult life. It's taken all my time. It's taken everything, and I
created a business for you,
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
doing
opportunity.
Doing something I love to help other people and have a business, and any way that, and I'm not telling our kids to take it this extreme, but any way you can integrate hunting into your life or your work, man, it ain't going to be work. Like that's
Right.
that's the best part. It ain't work if you love it.
Yep, for sure. So, well, we've come up on right about an hour there, so I appreciate it. We should probably wrap things up. Who would you suggest, or who would be a good guest for our podcast, do you feel like? Do you know somebody that would be good that I should chase down? And
man, I got several. That's the best part about where we live is we have a big community of guys here. That just depends, man. It depends on if you want to talk about getting kids into guns. It depends on, if it's just going to be about hunting. It depends on if it's a pack out. There's all kinds of guys. I mean, I've been on Brian Barney's show a few times, which, if you can ever lock that guy down, there's nobody better to talk to.
I am working on that one for sure. So
yeah,
and I think he's going to come on. He is. He's messaged me and said, "Let's get her done." He'd love to.
Yeah,
love to join. So that's good.
Yeah, Brian and anybody from Eastman's, man, are a great source for this. That's the best part about these podcasts, man, is you can bring guys on that specialize in all different things. For me, it's the archery game. There's precision rifle shooters that are amazing hunters that you can have on. There's everything you can think of. But yeah, if you can lock him down, I would definitely work on that.
Yeah. Well, I for purely jealous personal reasons, I want to know. He's had both of his kids go through high school. I think his second one might be graduating this year, and it's like, man, yeah. I want to know all your secrets because you still kill big animals and take your kids hunting. But
I can tell you what his secrets are, man, because he'll tell you flat out. His secret is hunting hard.
Yeah.
Those guys don't. Yep. There's no. Those guys do exactly what I do. Is they put every hour into it. They put he puts everything he has into it and doesn't stop. And the guy kills everything on public land. There's nobody better to learn from when it comes to what it takes. Because me and him have talked so much about how people get discouraged about hunting on public land in Montana, and that guy will always show you it is possible through hard work. And never and just sticking to your guns and believing in yourself. A lot of this is about your mindset. There's nobody better to talk to.
Yep. Perfect. Well, thanks. So, Well, tell us one more time how guys can find you and get in touch with you if they need archery stuff.
Yeah. Search Cain Rinehart on Instagram. Hit me up on my personal page. Please follow my Rinehart Archery page. I've been lacking on posting the videos on there, but I do put a lot of stuff on there that are just simple tips and tricks that I've learned that might go against what you think. It might be something that really elevates your game. Hit me up on my cell phone at 406-600-3172. I encourage everybody, man. I love if there's my biggest reward out of this is somebody leaving here and telling me like, man, my archery game is just, I can't believe how much better it's getting, man. Like, thank you. And yeah, if anybody can reach out to me on there, man, and I'm available for I get asked questions from guys all over the country. Unfortunately, there's no compensation for that, but because of the exposure through Eastman and stuff, I have a lot of guys reach out from all over the place, and I welcome them anytime. You don't have to be doing business with me. We can just talk about what you got going on and what you're thinking. So
perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.